K.R. Rashid, Chairman Kerala Chapter, Dr. Joseph, all participants and my dear colleagues. I welcome you all in this today's webinar, that is online webinar, on recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium battery. Once on, this is a glorious moment for us, and on behalf of ISS headquarter, ISS Nagpur chapter, and ISS Kerala chapter with chemistry department, Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management Nagpur. Once I want to convey my gratitude to Dr. Manjana and Dr. Fani for accepting our invitation. And again, once I welcome you all. Over to Swarup Madam. Hello. Swarup Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti. Light is a symbol of brightness and prosperity. As the sunlight expels the darkness of the nights, let us hope this virtual light brings in our lives prosperity and happiness and knowledge. To make this evening a blessed one, let us invoke Goddess Saraswati by kindling the virtual lamp. I invite all the dignitaries and the participants and request Dr. Meenal Joshi to coordinate the virtual lighting of the lamp. Dr. Meenal. I thank all the dignitaries and participants to have participated in the virtual lighting of the lamp. Now we move on. It is an honor now to invite Dr. K.K. Abdul Rashid, Chairman ISAS Kerala Chapter, to give his opening remarks in this webinar. Dr. K.K. Abdul Rashid.
Thank you, Dr. Swarup Lakshmi. Dr. Chandrachudan, Dr. A.R. Fani, Dr. Jayappa Manjana, Dr. R. Sharan, Dr. Rajiv, Dr. Avinash Bharati, Dr. P.V. Joseph, Dr. V.R. Nair, Dr. Babu, Dr. Swarup Lakshmi, Dr. Suraj Bhattalia, dear distinguished scientists and participants, a very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. ISAS, as all of us know, its prime objective is in the dissemination of the scientific knowledge among the scientific community. On behalf of ISAS Kerala chapter, it's a pleasure for me to get associated with ISAS Nagpur chapter in organizing this webinar. ISAS Kerala chapter and ISAS Nagpur chapter has organized several webinars, particularly during this pandemic period. Dr. Chandrachudan and Dr. Sharan, both of them, under their dynamic leadership, they have mobilized a lot of activities for the chapters, and their initiative in getting webinars being organized jointly by the chapters. As Dr. Avinash Bharati has already mentioned in his welcome address, we are going to have two eminent personalities, Dr. Fani, Director, Innovative Nano and Micro Technologies, and Dr. Manjana, HOD RCU, Bangalore, to grace this occasion. As all of us know, metal recovery is a very important topic, and it's metal recycling is also going to be very important for the nation. I had worked in Catalyst for the last 20 years, and I have the opportunity to recover metals. I have to work on metal recovery projects because from the spent catalysts. Similarly, Dr. Manchana is going to talk on metal recovery from spent lithium batteries. Of course, it's a metal recovery is going to be a very important thing, because recycling is going to have a lot of importance, because we are not exhausting our minerals unnecessarily after the usage. Today, Dr. Manchana is speaking on the recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium battery. This topic is highly relevant and important, highly relevant in terms of its importance with respect to environmental aspects, as well as with the recycling of valuable materials. So we are looking forward to hear the excellent talk by Dr. Manchana in this regard. With these words, I conclude my remarks. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Over to Surup Lakshmi.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid. It is indeed a privilege of ISAS Nagpur chapter as well to get associated with the Kerala chapter. And we had a really glorious journey of webinars. Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Rajiv Raghavan, Chairman Webinar Committee, to address the participants of this webinar. Dr. Raghavan.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. P.P. Chandrachudan, President ISAS. Dr. A.R. Fani, Managing Director, Innovative Nanotechnologies, Bangalore. Dr. Manchana, Professor, Department of Chemistry, RCU, Belgavi. Dr. Raghav Sharan, Dr. Avinash Bharati, Chairman, Nagpur Chapter ISAS. Dr. K.K. Abdul Rashid, Chairman, Kerala Chapter ISAS. Distinguished Persons Assembly here, ISAS members, friends. A very good afternoon. At the outset, I want to felicitate ISAS Nagpur and Kerala chapter for conducting this webinar, especially on a hot and relevant subject. Just 3 weeks ago, we had a lecture on lithium-ion batteries. We are aware that lithium and cobalt are the important ingredients in the making of lithium batteries. Both metals are rare and costly, and hence their recovery from the used batteries are highly important to sustain the development and use of lithium batteries. That is, now we are telling the future of the country. I think today's talk by Dr. Manchana will cover all these details. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite Dr. Chandrachudan, sir, to deliver his presidential address. Dr. Chandrachudan, sir.
You're muted, sir.
Yeah, good evening to all. Beloved Dr. A.R. Fani, today's chief guest. Dr. Jayappa Manjanna, today's expert speaker. Dr. V.R. Nair, Dr. Raghav Sharan, Dr. Rajiv Raghavan, Dr. K.K. Rashid, Dr. Avinash Bharati, Dr. Sriman Narayanan, Sri Arun Kumar, Dr. Vijayalakshmi Adia, Dr. P.V. Joseph, Dr. Deepthi Shivdas, Dr. Indrani Das Sharma, Dr. Sarup Lakshmi Mudaliar, Dr. Suraj Batolia, and management of Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management. I greet all of you warmly from the ISAS headquarters. I am extremely delighted to have Dr. A.R. Fani, Managing Director of Innovative Nano and Microtechnologies, Bangalore, who is making significant contribution to take India on the front of Atmanirbhar Bharat in high-tech industrial applications. Thank you, Dr. Fani, for joining us today. My dear friends, Dr. Jayappa Manjanna is a leading R&D oriented academician in Karnataka who was a recipient of the prestigious K.S. Krishnan Research Fellowship of Department of Atomic Energy, and who is playing an active and leading role and very useful too in, in the development-oriented research work. Today he is going to speak on important aspect of recovery of valuable metals from waste lithium batteries. I look forward to his talk with a lot of interest. On this occasion, let me also thank the authorities of Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management, who always closely interact with the ISAS activities. I wish all of you a useful and interactive webinar ahead. Thank you, and Dr. Mudaliar, I am handing over the mic to you.
Yes. Thank you, Chandrachudan sir. Thank you for your blessings. And thank you so much. I now call upon Dr. Indrani Das Sharma to introduce our chief guest for today's webinar, Dr. A.R. Phani, Managing Director, Innovative Nanotechnologies and Microtechnologies, Bengaluru.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello. Is it audible?
Yes, madam, you are audible.
Yes, yes.
It is indeed an honor and privilege to introduce our today's guest, Dr. A.R. Phani, who is an eminent nanotechnologist. Sir has done BS and MS in Applied Chemical Technology from Andhra University, PhD from IICT Hyderabad, and postgraduate diploma in Industrial Pollution Management from JNT University. Sir has been fellow in International Society of Biotechnology and has been member in various national and international societies. He has been the reviewer for 26 international journals, as well as visiting professor for various national and international universities like University of L'Aquila, Italy, University of New Hampshire, USA, Canfield University, UK, Griffith University, Florida, to name a few. Apart from that, Sir has been in the Board of Studies for courses on nanotechnology for various universities in India. Sir has been the recipient of 24 national awards and 3 international awards. He has guided more than 19 students for their doctoral research. Sir has a research interest in almost all fields of nanotechnology, be it nanopharmaceutical, nanobiotech, nanochemical technology, nanoelectronics, so on and so forth. Sir has successfully participated in various NSF, ESA, EU projects, to name a few. Apart from that, Sir has been handling more than 12 projects of various Indian private organizations and 6 Indian government projects. Sir has worked in various capacities as research fellow, senior research fellow, research associate, research engineer, research professor, senior engineer, project manager, as well as managing director of various organizations, universities, and research institutes of national and international repute. Sir is the managing director for Innovative Nano and Microtechnologies Private Limited since 2015. Since 2018, he has been the managing director for INM Nuvent Paints Limited, Bangalore. Sir has a versatile personality wherein he is apt in various hard skills as well as soft skills. It is indeed an honor to have with us Dr. A.R. Phani, an eminent nanotechnologist, in our forum. Thank you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Indrani. May I now request Professor P.V. Joseph, Vice Chairman, ISAS, Kerala Chapter, to introduce our resource person for today. Over to you, Professor Joseph.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I am very proud to introduce Dr. J. Manjana to you. Dr. J. Manjana is currently working as Professor and Chairman, Department of Chemistry, Rani Channamma University, Belgaum. He is also a Dean, School of Basic Science and Deputy Director, GED. Before joining RCU in 2013, he was at KUMF University as Assistant Professor in the Department of Industrial Chemistry and Coordinator for Nano Science and Technology. He obtained MSc in 1995 and PhD in 2001 in chemistry from KUM University. He worked in BRC Mumbai for his PhD degree and then as K.S. Krishna Research Associate. Later, he moved to Japan as a postdoctoral researcher under JSTS and JST Fellowship at Hokkaido University and University of Tokyo. He teaches aspects of inorganic and physical chemistry to PG students. His research is of multidisciplinary in nature, comprising chemical, physical, engineering aspects of inorganic materials. He worked on material chemistry of water-cooled power plants, namely decontamination of primary heat transfer systems, structural degradation of reactor core materials, high-level waste management, etc. Recently, he is focusing on nanomaterials for their applications in energy devices, environmental remediation, and biomedical applications. He has published over 85 international journal papers and 3 patents. He received Young Scientist Award twice by Indian Council of Chemists in 2000 and by Vision Group on Science and Technology, Government of Karnataka in 2012. He has received Best Paper Award 6 times in national conferences. As of February 2021, the Google Scholar citations are 2080. 4 candidates have been awarded PhD degree under his guidance, and 3 have submitted their thesis. He has reviewed number of manuscripts submitted by international journals, evaluated PhD thesis and research projects. He has delivered invited talks on material science in many international seminars. With immense pleasure and proud, I introduce today's speaker to all of you. Thank you. Over to MC.
Thank you, Joseph, sir. Before we move on to hear to Dr. Jayappa Manjana's talk, I invite Dr. Fani to give his talk for today. Dr. Fani, please.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all. First of all, I would like to say special thanks to Professor Manjana for calling me and asking me to be a chief guest for this ISIS program. Well, good evening to all. Highly knowledgeable, experienced, and eminent scientists and talented research scholars, vibrant students. My special thanks or my special regards to highly respected, honored National President, ISAS, Dr. P.P. Chandrachudan Ji, and Vice President, Dr. R. Sharan Ji, and Chairman for webinar, Dr. Rajiv Raghavan Ji, Kerala Chapter Convener, Dr. K.K. Abdul Rashid Ji, and Nagpur Chapter Convener, Dr. Avinash Bharati Ji. Really delighted today to just give a small address about this program. As you know that Really happy to be part of ISAS program today, which is conducting webinars webinars to continue the regular activity of the seminars. I'm really happy continuing the legacy of the seminars, even though in the this COVID period. As you all know that there are 4 important things in any R&D leading to technology. One is the process making, second one is analysis, third one is testing, fourth one is prototype. No need to tell all these things, you all know very well. But in the entire thing, like in the body, how you define head, body, and legs. The important part is heart. Here, I would say that analysis is the heart of everything, whatever you say, whatever you take. I can argue with anyone, not a problem. I can argue with the chemical engineer, civil engineer, electrical, mechanical, or any other scientist, but analysis is the heart of everything. Because without analysis, as you know very well, you cannot interpret anything about either product, or you can't take into a, leading to a technology basically. So analysis is a vital role plays in every sector of engineering or science. Well, analytical chemistry, in particular, analytical chemistry or analysis, I would say, that could be applicable for pharma. For example, pharma has the 4 divisions: pharmaceuticals, pharma analysis, pharmacology, and pharmacognosy, and pharmacochemistry. Take all the 4 or all the 5. The important thing is analysis. So they send all the samples to analysis to understand what is happening in the formulation. Then only they take decision, and that goes to the ecology, and they do all clinical studies. So no need to tell. Similarly, ceramics or maybe electronics, failure analysis, right? All these things will be taken care as and when we go to leading to a technology basically. So analytical chemistry or analysis plays an enormous role in our society, such as, for example, drug manufacturing, or the process control in industry, or environmental monitoring, or medical diagnostics, or maybe food production, forensic service. Anything you take, that is required is analysis. It is also of a great importance in different research areas. Analytical chemistry is a science that is directed towards creating a new knowledge so that chemical analysis can be improved to respond to increasing or on new demands. Without analysis or analytical chemistry, I would say, we could not make any important decisions about either that could be agricultural, or that could be pharma, or that could be ceramic or electronics, as I previously told. So analytical technologies, in particular instruments, as you know that I still remember my PhD, my master's day. We used to do the IR of our samples. We used to keep the sample over there, and then it took almost more than an hour to get the spectra, because of that the pen moves on the chart with the red color, and then we used to tear the paper with the graph paper and see whether if you turn this side it's absorbance, if you turn this side it's transmittance. So a lot of things basically. Now same technology after 30 years or maybe 25 years, it has been so fast. ATR mode, that is FTIR. FTIR mode, I just keep my sample over there and I get my analysis within I would say maybe 2 minutes. That is a kind of a great, dramatic change that has been happened in analysis, in particular analytical technology. Name it anything. For example, we used to struggle for the size of the particles by SEM. Now we can do by particle size analyzer, Malvern. Name it. We can go down to almost 5 nanometers. We can find out. We have a Malvern, both a big one as well as small one also. So what I would like to say here, we can make wonders, provided we could get a structure and property, relation. That can happen only and only by analysis. I would say analytical chemistry. Without that, if you jump that part, no one lead to anywhere. Basically, you will not lead anywhere. You will stop somewhere definitely. So you have to pass through this gate. We call it as analytical chemistry or analysis, I would say. So analytical technologies and instruments were for hundreds of years developed in-house. As you know that even Raman spectroscopy, we are very proud that it has been done in India. Like that, many technologies, like for example, some of the instruments that are developed in the departmental tools shops basically. It was such a wonderful. If I keep on telling the stories of this one, it goes to somewhere else. So nowadays, the instrument development is largely driven by the instrument manufacturers. But perhaps one important thing I would like to stress upon here is, give me another 1 minute time, wherein which name any technique that could be your UV. I'd start from maybe one step ahead, one step below. Density measurements, melting point. I'm starting from the lowest point. Density measurement, boiling point, or maybe UV, FTIR, or TGA, DSC, or maybe your HPLC, or maybe your scanning electron microscopy or X-ray diffraction. Wherever you lead, they are not manufactured in India, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they are made out of the country. That could be in Germany, that could be some of them in Japan, Shimadzu, or maybe Perkin-Elmer, whatnot. It is not in India. As on today, even though we have 100 years, we have celebrated our Indian Science Congress last year, I think a couple of years back, but still we don't make these analytical instruments in our country, unfortunately. Anyway, I don't want to comment on that one. The research area of analytical chemistry has been migrating from earlier instrument construction and method development to the main focus being on the method development and applications of analytical chemistry. Method development in itself involves obtaining a faster and more sensitive, simpler and more complex informative and more environmentally sustainable analytical methods that has been derived with the latest technologies. Activities in sustainable development as in chemical industry where renewable resources are used for more efficiently or also require greater efforts of analytical chemistry and chemistry at a large. So there is a need, there is a room for everything that where we can apply this analytical chemistry. In collaborative projects, for example, analytical chemistry often assists with methodology, experimental planning, method validation, quality control, multivariate data analysis, and interpretation of the results. All this leads to your conclusion of where you are leading, whether you go for the testing, next level testing, and then prototype, and then manufacturing. That's how the things will happen, basically. So I would like to say here that many more new techniques have been evaluated for the last, I would say, maybe 20 years. As we know that particle size we can measure as low as 5 nanometers, and X-ray diffraction, low angle we can do it, or maybe X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, where we can analyze the elemental analysis and also not the composition we can find out. X-ray, XRF, right? I can, all of you know very well, these are all the testing methods which will throw you light where you are leading, whether your structure and the property are properly related or not. That makes the researcher to understand where he is going, where he or she is going for the next level. If the size is not appropriate in the process, whatever they have done in the previous step, they have to go back again and redo the formulation and come back again for analysis and check the size. Okay, my size is 40 nanometers. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Then you can go for testing and then go for the prototype and then go for the finally manufacturing. This is how, again, in manufacturing also, not yet finalized. In manufacturing, again, once the process is done, the batch process is done, we have to do the quality control, which is nothing but, again, analysis. Quality control, quality assurance, nothing but which comes under analysis. Every batch, whatever we do, we keep one sample aside to understand whether how the structure and property are properly maintained at a larger scale or not. So I would like, if I keep on saying like this, there is no end. So what I would like to at the end is, analysis is the heart of everything. Name any kind of a branch. That could be biology, that could be your medical, that could be a biomedical, pharma, or a ceramic, or electronics. It has its own role and it is vital also. So with these few words, I would like to invite our today's speaker, Professor Manjana, who is my best friend. And I'm really happy that Manjana has made one kind of a very important, identification, extraction, or what do you call that, elemental elements to be recovered from the batteries. Which absolutely, for example, precious metals like lithium or maybe cobalt, or maybe, for example, in our smartphones we have tungsten, which is very that gives a vibration actually. Tungsten, or maybe some gold, which has been used for the contacts, can be recovered, not a problem. So I would say that Professor Manjana's contribution to the part is really appreciable, and I really thanks for his excellent research program that has been carried. I think I met him 2 years back, maybe 2 years back, when I went to your university, Rani.
Ranitana Belgaum.
Yeah. There was a story also. I don't want to now tell that my vehicle was got, my vehicle got, completely, affected. Thanks to Manjana for his kind support. And I would like to say that his constant research made him to, made him to stay at this level, basically, because his concentration or his way of focus on the lithium batteries for the last 3 years have seen him, and he is contributing amazingly. Really. So on this occasion, once again, I would like to invite Professor Manjana to give his lecture on the metals extraction, lithium metals recovery. Sorry, metals recovery from the lithium batteries.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Funny sir. I'm sure all the analytical chemists on board today, including me, are motivated by hearing to Dr. Funny and would like to make a nano room for themselves in this vast field of nanotechnology. What a great insight you have given us, Dr. Funny. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now for the most awaited moment. I'm sure we are all eager to hear to Dr. Manjana. It's my honor to invite Dr. Jayappa Manjana, Professor, Department of Chemistry, Rani Chennamma University, Belgavi, Karnataka, to deliver his talk on recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium batteries. Over to you, Dr.
Yeah, very good evening to one and all. Madam, my slides are visible now?
No, sir.
No.
Please share your screen.
Yeah, I go on sharing. No.
No, sir. Go to presentations.
Yes. I went for
present now, then.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
It's visible, sir.
Yes. So once again, good evening to one and all. So really, I'm very happy and pleased to be with you all this evening. At first, I would like to thank the Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, the Kerala chapter and the Nagpur chapter, and starting from the National President, Dr. P.P. Chandramohan sir, and National Vice President, Dr. Raghav Saran sir, and then the Chairman of the Webinar Committee, Sanjeev Raghavan, and Chairman of this Kerala chapter, Dr. K.K. Abdul Rashid ji, and Avinash Bharti, and I think Dr. Adya Madam, who has introduced me to this particular seminar series. And most importantly, I must greatly appreciate Dr. Pani's words that he has given a very beautiful about that platform or kind of a overview, especially on this particular webinar series for especially today's talk. So he has nicely narrated about the importance of this analysis and how even from starting from a very small aspect, that small analysis, how they are going to contribute for the the overall results and further development and technology transfer, all those things. And he is a man of mission. So I know that I have been interacting with him for quite a long time. And Dr. Pani is both academician as well as he spent a good amount of time as an academician, and now he is an industrialist. So he understands the our pulse, how what is the difficulty that being an academicians we face when you have to transfer whatever the technology being done, the investigations being made at the laboratory and bringing that to a laboratory scale, that large scale or a pilot plant scale, and then transfer to society and all those things. I think anyway, so we shall all make this particular thing. Recently, Dr. Chandrachudan sir called me some time back, and I am also very happy that this I was associated with the Indian Analytical Society for quite long time. But in between, somehow I got retracted from active involvement. So when Dr. Padmanabhan was there and Dr. Sundaresh and all were there in BRC, so I used to be there and acting. We in fact when I was in, we ourselves did one conference long back in the year, I think in 2000. It's almost 20 years before. Well, so I think this is a very interesting activities are being held under this particular society. So now this I'll move to this my talk on this recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium-ion batteries. So I must make a few things very clear here. See that I've been working here for quite almost 5-6 years. But you see, as you can understand, being in the teaching institute in the universities, we have so many other responsibilities. Nevertheless, this particular got a very interesting because this involves not so big equipment facility, not that much. It's not a very hi-fi research. So we are now, if you look at the as we are going to, you are going to see that it's a very simple science. So our simple chemistry, very simple and basic chemistry is involved in doing this kind of work. Of course, again, to make it a large scale and technology transfer really requires a huge, that kind of a interfacing with the industries and also, all those, these engineering aspects are required. But to begin with, it was very, simple with the chemistry aspect. We started this particular work, and to my surprise, I think there were not many people working in that area. So when we published way back in, I think 2015, I think RD1, there was no paper basically from India, except after that from Jamshedpur. So there is a metallurgical research laboratory there, CSR laboratory. I think there, I think one group is working now actively. I think now a few people have already involved into that. And I see now many people getting into this, and many papers from last, say, few years. So I am seeing many papers because these days, the area is the energy, environment, and health. So when we come to this environment, so this is what is part of this particular issue. So because after doing all this big technology and all that, again we have to look at what you say, that back-end technology, not only lithium-ion battery, for that matter, say you can simply treat it as an e-waste, doesn't matter, because more or less a similar whatever methodologies that I'm going to tell now, I mean the chemical treatments can be extended for all such, say what that e-waste management and recovery of, say, valuable metal ions from the various, including printed circuit boards and so many other say, electronic waste. So they all got a very useful materials and also precious and rare earth elements, all that. So it's a end of life management for this e-waste. And there is a recently, many other economists and all the social scientists entering into that to, writing a huge big articles on this circulation economy. So this circulation economy is something very interesting as we talk about something called, this we kind something like urban mining. So this urban mining is, just like instead of going to dig a huge, ores in the conventional mining, here you have, at your, say at your finger point, you have lots of e-waste coming from different sectors. So if you are able to process, segregate and selective recovery is made, so that's wonderful. So this is in that aspect, I think this particular research has got some importance, and I'm very happy that most of the participants are very much interested in this particular work and all that I can see here. Well, before I move, I think just because my work which I'm going to focus is hardly takes about 10-15 minutes to tell, because I'm not going each up on those, all the reactions, all those things. But so therefore, I would also give some kind of a background, all those things. So basically, I have also been working on various other things, because in the university, so we work on this fuel cell related, developing electrolyte materials for solid oxide fuel cells. This again, I am working basically on this energy, environment, and health related issues. I mean, biomedical applications. So here in the energy sector, so this fuel cell for we are developing the electrolytes. So that is especially for solid oxide. IT means the intermediate temperature SOFC. So here we develop with different electrolytes that is having a oxide and conductivity that we do by doing a impedance analysis and all that. Also, we develop a few carbon-based nanomaterials like, using carbon nanotubes, graphene, all those things with a different kind of polymers. And we develop different nanomaterials like silver, gold, copper, etc. for biomedical application, conjugating those nanomaterials and then studying for the drug delivery, etc. So some aspects on these magnetic nanomaterials as well as steels. That is again related to nuclear issues. So the stainless steel, especially 316 LN, etc., where it is used in the reactor core materials, reactor pressure vessel and all that. So we do something called a mechanical deformation of those and trying to understand the austenitic to martensitic phase transformation and studying the magnetic property. That's a kind of related to so non-destructive evolution of the structural materials of these nuclear structures. Nuclear materials. Likewise, we do something on these clay minerals, especially montmorillonite, which is used as a bentonite in the nuclear waste management. So this is just platform for me to just tell certain things. Then immediately I'll get into those things. Also, we involve in that redox dissolution of metal oxides for decontamination. That is again descaling of these corrosion products. I started this work long back during my PhD when I was in BRC. So working on this dissolution of these corrosion products. So on the structural materials like stainless steel, all that related to BWR, PHWR, all those coolant pipelines, the corrosion product going through the reactor core, exposing to neutron and all neutron activated corrosion products, and also developing kind of a redox formulations. Actually, this is the basis for taking up this particular work, because this involved a dissolution and all that redox dissolution, reductive dissolution, oxidative dissolution, and complexation, leaching. So this part things where I was very familiar. Then I started, why can't I do the same thing for this kind of a say US treatment and all that. So that's how this particular work has given me a lot of avenues to bring in. In fact, I applied the same knowledge in various other issues for other issues to understand. Well, so lithium-ion battery, actually we started working on developing some new cathode materials. So wherein we could not succeed in making a good materials, though we made few publications and all. So, but then we entered into this recycling. So instead of making a new material, why can't we recover this, say, what is that, from the spent lithium-ion batteries and all that? As I said, from this, metal oxide dissolution, that based on that knowledge. So like this particular slide shows, that the areas, so fuel cell, battery, nuclear waste, and conventional waste management like dye degradation, etc., and some biomedical applications using biocompatible nanomaterial like gold, silver, copper, etc., all those things. So you are most welcome to visit our university. Rani Chennamma University is in Belgaum city. So, and it's a very nice place. So as Dr. Pani sir said, when he visited, it was a rainy season. So his vehicle got stuck and he had, we had to face a lot of problems. So during this one. Well, that's how I think these are the areas people are interested to work these days. Lot many things. So energy sector, all those things. So because I also spent good amount of time in Japan, I think this resource recycling has been extensively focused there. So because this is a developed country, they produce a lot of e-waste. Now they are having a lot of problems how to tackle this. Somewhere they should mute themselves. I think. Hello.
Okay.
I think you can check from this. You can mute yourself. The host can mute. Yeah. Well, yes, sir. So that way, resource recycling has been now focused by many developed countries. So now it is a time for us also to get into that, and so do some worthwhile investigations, and then finally bringing into an actual practice. That is what is the main worry. So to my knowledge, so in India, so there are not many resource over that recycling that industries and all that. So in our Karnataka itself, in Bangalore, there was one e-Parisar and all that. So I happened to meet a few people there, one Bulbule and other people, Parthasarathi, all those people. I was told that they had to face a lot of problems in this pollution control board or that environmental clearance, all those things. I think now they've shifted to Hyderabad or some Andhra Pradesh, some other place. they started working on this that lithium battery recycling industrial scale and all that. Otherwise, to my knowledge, I think there are no such industries now. But that's how we have a lot of scope to get into this work and bringing into a larger scale. Well, so as I move to this starting this lithium ion battery, so let us first salute the people who made this, developed this lithium ion batteries. So, and you all know that 2019 Nobel Prize is good enough, and Shenlei Whittingham and Akira Yoshino from Japan. So all these people were involved in different aspects, starting from Yoshino to Whittingham, and finally lithium cobalt oxide was developed by good enough, and in turn we gave that the technology to Sony, I think somewhere in 1990-91. So that Sony took up, and they brought this brought into a commercial stage, and they produced lithium-ion batteries. So these lithium-ion batteries, I think sometime back I was also a participant to listen from the other one madam, so who spoke about all this developing a cathode materials and although to improve the efficiency of these lithium-ion batteries, all those things. So that way, so now I am not into those things because I have not worked also well, so I don't have much comment. So here, it is only a dismantling thing I am going to talk. So it is the other way around. So you construct and we destruct, but destruct means we reprocess the things and all that. So that way, therefore, it is the reverse trend. What I am going to talk now, it is not in the making a it's one of that efficient lithium-ion battery and all that. So I am looking into a reverse trend. So therefore, this global trend is all lot of they depend on this lithium-ion battery for all sorts of not only these portable electronic devices like a battery, that mobile, laptop, and so many e-goods, electronic goods, and now it is into electric motor vehicles. So that has come, and not only in even this satellite solar system, the ISRO is making a lot of usage. So all this thing everywhere this and even to lighten the huge power grids to that extent. So people are talking about using this lithium-ion battery. So, but there are many demerits and all that. I think somewhere we are going to see in my slides. So there are issues and all that. But many attempts have been made to improve various other batteries like a lithium sulfur battery, many other things, even sodium battery and all those things. I think still we are a long way to go. So at least for another say 10-15 years, I think we have no other option except to use the lithium-ion batteries in a large scale. And by 2030, India also want to reduce the greenhouse gases, etc. So in this direction, so there's a lot of effort need to be done. So to make this lithium-ion batteries in India, so that's also one big problem. So we don't have materials and also technology to have lithium batteries within India. Of course, there were attempts even at ARCL in Hyderabad, and many other, even some companies in Maharashtra. So some people have contacted me also in this direction. Well, so these are all well known. So anode is mainly graphite, and you have a cathode materials mainly of these three types. But of course, now we have a varieties of these substitutions in place of manganese and also in iron, especially this lithium manganate. So many substitutions like so nickel, so that aluminium, so many other substituents. But there is to electrochemically, there is nothing like lithium cobalt oxide. But cobalt is got some other advantage, environmental toxic and all those things. But now from China and all, we get a lot of mixed oxide kind of cathode materials. So I have studied mostly with this lithium cobalt oxide batteries having this lithium cobalt oxide as an ideal case. So you all know about how this works and all that charging and discharging. So during charging, this graphite is sucking up this lithium from this cathode material, and it is a reverse while discharging. So this is basically a secondary source and storing the energy, and you can make use, and it can be so you can be in the peak hours from the conventional conventional energy sources like that windmill, solar, and all that. So one can store the that energy in these lithium-ion batteries and can be charged and used in vehicles and various other or in the off peak time and all those things. So therefore, because why first of all lithium battery fails, or say, the capacity fading taking place, and finally we say after a few cycles, say typically it can be there for about 500 to 1,000 cycles. So after that, slowly it fades, and finally we'll be removing, exchanging those batteries. So the reason is, that as the lithium settling taking place between anode and cathode, and also it is interacting with the electrolyte and separator and electrolyte. So there is a kind of some solid formation there, and the trapping of this that lithium in the anode side, and so lithium carbonate kind of some solid formations are there, and slowly that efficiency goes down. So that's how. So we say it is so the lithium battery fails. After that, you need to continuously charge all those things. Well, so I think these are related to the efficiency of these cathode materials and all that. So I will not dwell on those things. So even Professor Goodenough himself wrote an article on challenges for rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, and he also advocates something like, you have to find some new requirements are required, to further usage and for use in the large scale and all that. Since we don't have any other option now, we are going with this lithium-ion battery. Well, so this solid waste management and recycling, these are all well known, because if I see that audience, I think most of us are well aware of these things, why you have to take up this issue, why what is the necessity and all. So I must tell here one word. There is a word in Japan called mottai nai. So I was there in Japan, so I understand there is a, what is that? You can use all these things as long as possible. That means don't keep on throwing things. You should make a maximum use of the materials that you have. Continue to use as long as possible. See that that carries a lot of meaning. That see, once people have some money and all that, they keep on exchanging the right from vehicle to all these electronic gadgets and all. It's not wrong, but at the same time, if you see that environmental impact, how much we're wasting, and when we don't have a technology to recover things and all this. So here you see that there's a lot of e-waste handling. It is just a open source, some images I will be showing here and there. So there is a lot of there's a huge need, and segregation and lot of value, that metal values are there in this e-waste. So sorting out, identifying. So in India, this is the one biggest problem what we are in. We have is this: we don't have that that concern that people should segregate this waste. Whether we are talking about other regular waste, come to even e-waste also will be treating something like that. Although there are regulations. So e-waste treatment and all that, but the manufacturer should take back those e-waste, and one must hand over only to the manufacturers or the place where you purchased, so that they will be able to mobilize and send it to some further processing and all those things. So people should follow all that. So therefore, see, now the biggest challenge now to make this kind of huge batteries, because now we don't have other option. We have to produce that many. I am going to tell a few numbers and all that. So therefore, now to the recovery, but that recovery from the environment and technological perspective is very important here, because this lithium is a big issue. Because if you see this particular slide, you understand. So lithium is a very scarce. So scarcity of lithium is there throughout the world. So right now, so through our knowledge, you see that there is something called ABC countries. That is Argentina, Bolivia, and China are the main suppliers of this lithium right now. Although recently in Korea has made some attempt to get lithium extraction from the seawater and all. So, but not much. Of course, in India we don't have any lithium source, except recently there was a news somewhere in near Mandya, some lithium that deposit has been found and all that. I think again there's some other news that the processing some difficulty and all those things they were expressing. Well, so therefore this lithium, one has this lithium scarcity has to be tackled. And again, except this Chile and other things, this Bolivia and all the not reliable countries again. So those issues are also there. So therefore, it comes we must take back this not from the not only from environmental viewpoint, we must process this e-waste from the viewpoint of collecting back all those valuable metals. So as you see that as I said, some of these journals, very interesting journals, what is that circular economy. So lithium-ion batteries towards circular economy, a literature review of opportunities and issues of recycling treatments. They talk, see here, if you see that, the production mainly of this lithium batteries come from these Asian countries, 40% production in Japan, followed by South Korea and China. Although major consumers are USA and EU, European Union, so where the better battery sector represents the fastest growing waste stream due to the increasing electrification in the various devices. So therefore, see, this is, they made a lot of the calculations, how we can say, regenerate our economy through such a resources recycling. These articles recently, we can find many such things. Say, this, some of that, the metal content in the typical this one lithium-ion battery is shown here. And, this battery works all these, from -20 to 60 degree. So positive. All this, so the use of lithium battery in portable electronic devices such as mobile, all these things. Then you have about 37.2 are lithium cobalt oxalate. See here, what is shown is double. It has almost, the usage of this lithium-ion battery has doubled from 2014 to 2019. So it you see here the lithium cobalt oxide, lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide, Li. This is actually in the case of lithium LiMNO4 make these kind of substitutions, nickel and cobalt and LiFePO4. So in that, so you see the various content here shown here. And also this lithium-ion battery market also moves from small scale application into large capacity sectors such as it is mentioned, electric vehicles and energy storage systems to reduce the greenhouse gas emission and all that. So that's how it is a very important issue to take up these things. So again, another very recent, say 2019 paper about the lithium battery reusing and recycling. How this, to this one, that is circular economy insights. So eventually, see the recycle to recover all the value components. Then only you can make a all the sustainable development, what we call. So you can see here some of the see there is which is very interesting to note that driven by the electric vehicle boom. So it is there in India also. So there is, which is about 3-fold increase in the price of lithium. It must be noted here. So and 4-fold increase in that of cobalt between 16 to 18 in the last just 2 years. You see the price of lithium and cobalt, say in the case of lithium cobalt oxide, for example. So this is what, see, not only from environmental viewpoint, so from economical viewpoint and all the availability of this metal. So we need to recover all this, say lithium is there, cobalt, manganese, nickel, copper, aluminum. See copper and aluminum, because on copper file they coat anode material like graphite, and on this one aluminum file they coat this one active cathode material like lithium cobalt oxide and other cathode materials. So likewise, so it is very important to do all those things. So therefore, so I think I mentioned about this, why this lithium-ion battery becomes spent or used or something like a solid product like this. I have already mentioned here, lithium carbonate, etc. So as some of the metastable components is formed due to reaction of the lithiated anode with the alkyl carbonate comprising this electrolyte solution. So finally, so that intercalation mechanism is hindered, and slowly the battery, that fading taking place. Well, so to do this kind of recycling, we again we have a well-known, green chemistry aspect. We have been encouraging this, to do green chemistry things in all our day-to-day the R&D and all other aspects. So therefore, so using very environmentally benign materials is very interesting. So here you see some of the reported data I'm showing before I come to our own work here. You see that, see, by taking a very simple chemicals, I think this is a very recent publication, 2015. I think our paper also came around this time, 2015 first paper. Again, more or less using a similar thing. So today only I happen to see these papers, some of them. So you see that using a very mild organic acids like citric acid, these are other, say, aqueous, hydrogen peroxide, etc., reducing agent. So you are able to recover some of this cathode materials. So first it has to be dismantled those procedures will come a little later. So therefore, so this, taking those, demonstrating technology that you will be able to use very mild, chemical reagents to dissolve some of these, metal oxides. Especially the cathode material is very important here. So cathode material, as I said, those metal oxides mostly. So metal oxide can be subjected for this kind of a redox dissolution, or using a kind of a chelating agent. That is, we call that a kind of a, just a leaching with the chelating agents. So then you can separate, and you can able to do a kind of a, what you call the selective recovery, selective precipitation. So that kind of thing can be done. So these are very simple, chemical reactions. So therefore, that importance you can also understand from the, say, in the Nature paper, say in the 2019 itself. So there was a paper in Nature. So that is a recycling lithium-ion batteries from electric vehicles. So in electric vehicles, in all these developed countries, we call, kind of hybrid vehicles. In India also, some vehicles have already come. So even the government of Karnataka is also making a lot of effort to introduce these electric motor vehicles in Bangalore city. So the Munse that in the per city service, all those things. Well, so you're taking such a huge batteries and recycling, and they've estimated all this cost, etc. So this kind of is publishing in Nature about the is very interesting. That shows people and the trend is in that direction. So doing things. See, other some people have demonstrated something like how to take out this lithium iron phosphate dissolution, and making a kind of all this segregation of these materials using with a very simple, say, lithium can be precipitated as a lithium carbonate, and say cobalt can be precipitated as cobalt oxalate, and various other materials. So iron also, so iron, simply iron phosphate, sieving, all those things. So you can see that this kind of studies have been reported in a very reputed journals, ACS Sustainable Chemistry and Environment and Engineering. So likewise, so, and here you see that metals and materials demand from lithium-ion battery packs in a passenger electric vehicles. So as you can see here, by 2030 we are in a huge need for this, all these metals. So we take manganese, lithium, cobalt, say all these things, even including graphite. See, battery grade graphite itself again is a very interesting. So here is a resource recycling is not only restricted only to cathode materials. You can also recycle this anode material, which is a battery grade say that graphite material. That's also important. See, even the copper, because the copper and aluminum are used. See, there is aluminum and copper. So they are used as a current collectors. That means in the batteries. So I will be showing those pictures. So this cathode material is coated on this aluminum, and anode material on this copper files. So also you see that in automotive, so lithium-ion batteries, this current status, the growing market in all these sectors. Say portable energy device, that energy storage could be renewable. So there in the renewable store in the peak hours, one can store in the lithium-ion batteries. And connecting to grid, followed by stationary energy storage, and again growing market for these all automobile like cars, buses, forklifts, motor automobile bicycles, all things. Some kind of a saturation what is seen is in these all smartphones, laptops. We have been using this for quite long time, so maybe last 20 years or so. So now, but see, these are the market, and these requires a huge, say, consumption of power. Therefore, so there is a huge need for all those materials what we talked about just now. So these materials is the best way is to collect, but not it can provide almost more than 50% of the required materials. So because it has been collected, a huge accumulation is there from all sorts of e-waste and all that. Well, so these are again showing a kind of a one second, present and future lithium-ion battery market. You see that how you are going to see kind of a by 2020. Now we are in 2020, 25, 2030. See, it is increasing in big way in all industry and stationary, electric motor vehicles. Likewise, it is a huge market is there for the lithium-ion battery. All these is kind of a trend I have shown here, and not only that lithium-ion battery, all e-waste accumulation. How much? You see, this is a kind of a per inhabitant kg per inhabitant. You see that each person is somewhere, that how much is waste, making a kind of a e-waste. So estimation, so somewhere about some 6 to 7 kg each individual is producing. So with all our, say, usage of computers, the various other electronic devices. Well, so again, if you see that, if you break down this lithium-ion battery, you have all these kind of a very valuable metals. Maybe an anode is a graphite material, active cathode materials from which you have all these, what is that, cobalt, lithium. So these materials are shown here. So see, active, see, lithium, cobalt is there, and the current collectors like that copper. So like this, so very useful materials to collect. So these are again showing kind of a different process used for lithium-ion battery. I think I'll skip certain things. Yeah, so that's how some people have reported various methods. More or less, we come to, these are all published almost more or less at the same period, somewhere 15, 16, 17, something like that. So recently there is a people have been talking about kind of a direct recycling of the spent lithium battery, and there are various issues when you subject it for a direct recycling. See, a lot of us, all this, the cover material of the aluminum cascade and all other metal will be dissolving. So taking out is a big issue, but some people still argue about that. But to our knowledge, there is nothing like a dismantling and handling the individual materials. That's the best way. So here, just completely, dismantle, crush it and put it in dissolve and separate. There, they used to use a lot of other mineral acids, etc. Well, I think we can skip. So people have used varieties of materials, like starting from mineral acids to organic acids. So we don't support these mineral acids. They have their own limitations, including the containers and the associated pollution and other things. Like this, if you see that this lithium-ion battery recycling has been recycling process for lithium-ion battery is being published in very important journals. So Nature Sustainability, Nature Energy, this is sustainable. See, this is just to give us some kind of a glimpse how important this particular work has gained recently. So, and very recently I came across something called even this one, but that bioleaching also. This is again a very interesting again. So if you read that, there are some very good bacteria. For example, in this case, they would try to do something with the iron LiFePO4. So there they used a ferroxidans, some kind of that bacterium. So I'm not biologist, but nevertheless, see, there are kind of a very selective bacteria. So they can selectively absorb and also leach from this kind of a cathode materials and all that. I think this entire story is about that. So collecting from the cathode material is incubated with this culture with this bacteria, and the leaching of both iron, all these things are estimated. Cobalt, sorry, in this case only LiFePO4 is treated. So iron and lithium are estimated. So like this, so we have various things to do. And also there is a pyrometallurgical process wherein you can completely burn it. So this is again, there are a lot of merits and demerits of each method. Merits and demerits of each method. So, but we are interested in doing only hydrometallurgical route. So hydrometallurgical, and especially using environmentally benign chemicals like mild organic acids. See, these are various things. So spent lithium-ion battery, so all this dismantling and removing this kind of a binding agent and electrolyte by treating in a heat treated in a furnace and all that. Then you treat that, then you can subject it for dissolution and all those things. Well, these are various literature still. Yeah, I think, yeah, this is what again a circular. I think this I already talked about that. This is some kind of repetition. Well, so this kind of a various materials, you can see that. Now I come to my what we have done. I will be showing you. So this is very interesting to look at it. So resources recycling for sustainable development and that urban mining. It is very interesting strategy, as I said. So let me come to, yeah. See, basically we took up this kind of a redox dissolution studies. So here, reductive dissolution is, see, if you take this a very typical case of this cathode material, lithium cobalt oxide. See, lithium cobalt oxide is actually LiCoO2. Cobalt is in +3 state because cobalt is +3 and lithium plus, so 4 plus. So oxygen 2 into 2 minus. So balance is there. So lithium is in +3 state. Now, if you reduce that cobalt 3 to cobalt 2 by using certain reducing agent, what happens? Cobalt 2, once the 3 becomes 2, it is bigger in size. So it gets ejected from the lattice. Then ejected means it will come to the solution, wherein if the solution has a kind of a stabilizing agent, something like a chelating agent. So we provide that kind of a chelating agent, like as I said, the oxalic acid, citric acid, ascorbic acid, so many. So that cobalt 2, after getting reduced, it comes to solution and gets stabilized. Similarly, one can also subject it for oxidative dissolution. You can also make a cobalt 3 to cobalt 4 plus. Thereby what happens? Cobalt do not come from the lattice, rather it will eject this lithium, because once that charge balance takes place, once the cobalt 3 becomes cobalt 4 plus, so lithium has no place in the lattice because cobalt 4 plus and this is already 4 minus, so it is charge balance. So basically it is a layered material, so cobalt will be coming out from the lattice. So we use this particular strategy to understand, and further, simple leaching is also possible. That is called, kind of a leaching through surface complexation. So that is doesn't involve any redox process of the metal ion, simply leaching. See, we used several, made organic acid like citric acid, tartaric acid, malic acid, glycine, some of the amino acids also, aspartic acid, succinic acid, ascorbic, oxalic, all those things. So you can see some of the structures and all that. But if you see, when you make these solutions and all, the pH is about, say, say 2 to 3.5, something like that. And we understand all that, how this dissolution mechanism taking place. See, based on that, all those we published in different articles like hydrometallurgy, waste management, say many, so 2-3 hydrometallurgy, waste management. I have filed a patent also. So like this, it was possible to do. So here is the process in a very typical case. I tell you, we take a spent battery and discharge it. This is very important. So one should never handle any kind of a batteries directly, because many times you think that this is spent battery. So I can go into those details later. See, people think it is a discharge, but sometimes still, the 30-40% of the, it is charged. Therefore, handling is a very difficult problem. There's a firing and all, you are all very much aware. So what is the reason for all that? Cathode and anode kind of interconnecting. So that is very dangerous. Therefore, one must completely discharge it. So this we did, but now we have a very good technology that at a time it is possible to put in some solution. It can be discharged completely. So that kind of a method also we have developed. So you can discharge it, and then right now we are doing only the manual dismantling. Okay. So automation and all we have we discussed a lot, but as I said, still I'm in the laboratory scale, and recently we have started kind of a pellet plant scale. So, but now we have to go for this kind of a automation and all for dismantling. So right now, so all these things are done manually. We separate it. Say this is a graphite on copper file, as I already said. This cathode material on the aluminum file, and there is a separator. This Nefian, that the polymeric membrane. This is again a very interesting. Even Nefian is again it can be recycled, and this is also very expensive material. And graphite is also expensive and of this grade, high quality. And there are methods how you can make use of this graphite and make make other say graphene and other things, make composites, make with some metal oxides and use for some other purpose, or you can make again better grade by cleaning and other things. Well, so we basically focused first on this cathode material. So we, after such a thing, it was dried. So we collect it, manually, scrubbed from the, that aluminum file, and then it was heat treated to remove this binding agent and organic electrolytes, which is present there. So it has to be carefully done. So then we remove all those things. Then we we do a kind of a similar that conventional that analysis to understand the morphology, structure, all those things, and elemental composition, all that for our academic purpose. A similar procedure is done for even the latter that lithium-ion batteries collected from this laptop computers. Say in a typical laptop, you will have 6 batteries. So many times you found that when you bring such a battery, only this terminal batteries are discharged or say faded, but still this middle one will be very active. People don't understand, still they throw it. And I have we come across certain Gujari these people. In fact, they just recycle. They just put these on the the terminal part, and then they sell it for a very cheap rate and all. So I think that one must test, and again it is possible to reuse it instead of throwing directly. Well, so in our case, so spent battery were collected, dismantled, something like that. So then finally again the same, you have come to the same separate, the anode, cathode, and separator and all that, and similar procedure, heating and all that. Well, so now I come to kind of a dissolution. Say we subjected such a metal oxide for the dissolution in a typical case citric acid and ascorbic acid. So as I earlier said, this all comes from my earlier knowledge on this redox dissolution of metal oxides. So citric acid is a kind of a chelating agent, very good chelating agent, as well as it also maintains a kind of a buffering agent. pH is maintained because 3 H+ ions are there in that. So, and ascorbic acid is a very good reducing agent. So reducing and chelating agents are very much required, and it gives a very good dissolution process. So, and it's all very simple experiments. And once it is dissolved, you see that the cobalt 2 or cobalt 3 coming into this one, and the color you can see that, and we could see the spectra, and these are all to support our that systematic study. To see that this cobalt 2, cobalt 3 complexation, these were all done for the first time, just looking at all those things. And we also looked at that rate of dissolution, how far so in some cases why that lithium is coming out fast, say kind of a preferential dissolution of lithium over cobalt. In fact, this kind of study we used to do in those that used to treat something like iron chromium substituted iron oxides. So that was actually a kind of a corrosion product in the steels, stainless steel, etc. So that was related to that. So something like that, a similar behavior and all was seen. So that's how it was easy for us to take up this work and do. Well, so the lithium, actually that because the cathode material will not have the stoichiometric amount of lithium, because as I said, as it is fading, some lithium compounds or solid compounds are formed. Therefore, what we expected the lithium do not come. That's how it is a kind of a artificial inflation. So it is not a preferential dissolution and all. So later all that, but not in the beginning. Well, so finally, we separately precipitate that. So cobalt was precipitated as a cobalt oxalate, and the remaining is the only lithium. So we make sure that what is the amount of lithium left and all that through ICP, AS analysis and all. When the lithium was estimated by flame photometer, so we understand there was almost cobalt was more than 99% was precipitated as oxalate, and lithium was precipitated as a lithium carbonate. But that requires kind of some special treatment to make it as a carbonate. But otherwise, it is easy to make again oxalate. Well, so here you see kind of a cobalt oxalate precipitation, and again simple characterization XRD, FTIR, all those things. So like that, see this is I will not say this kind of in a typical case how it was treated and all those things. So like that we got a lot of these dissolution profiles, and just estimating lithium and cobalt and seeing their characteristics, rate of dissolution, and all those giving a kind of a mechanism of the dissolution, how it dissolves, as I just now mentioned. So both lithium and cobalt, how they come out from the oxide lattice, and finding a rate constant for the dissolution and all. And recently we did even rapid dissolution. So by micro, say this is the conventional so far as I talked all these. This is by using a what you call that magnetic stirrer and heating. But on the other hand, say if you go for kind of a rapid dissolution is possible after treating in a microwave oven. So simple irradiation, microwave irradiation, gave a rapid dissolution. So if you say, seconds, few minutes, it was possible to do that, and we could publish in a very good journal of environmental management or something. So this I think it has about 4+ or 5+, so imperfect. So like this. And then there we showed how this cobalt, oxalate precipitation. So and also that finally by taking that we made a cobalt oxide, again reconfirmation. So those things. Now I come to the another the strategy that we used, that is a oxidative leaching. So this actually right now, so compared to this reductive leaching, I am very much interested in this oxidative leaching because no cobalt or say manganese or iron comes out. Only the lithium is coming out because these are oxidized, and here you get a that lithium alone. So this is a very interesting. So that's how we treated something like this in oxidizing medium. So we treat that the cathode material, and see the moment. So here in this case I can show you here, after oxidative treatment we get a lithium depleted phase. So such a lithium depleted phase was not stable. It didn't get immediately phase transformed to cobalt oxyhydroxide. So then see this is very interesting. Then this cobalt also again we can precipitate. So again the lithium was precipitated as again lithium carbonate or lithium oxalate also. And we also studied something on this adsorption of this lithium on various nanomaterials, clay minerals, all those things. So modified clay minerals, composites, all those things. I given some of the and also during this such a oxidative treatment. So we have studied this, how this lattice parameters are varying as you do a say first lithium cobalt oxide after partial say removal of this lithium. After 2 hours of leaching, so how this 001 this layered material, so how it is shifting, so thereby the expansion taking place. So that's how this H+ enters there, and then this cobalt is coming out as a cobalt oxyhydroxide. So all these are very nicely, and it was very much matching with the other solid state observations made in by the solid state chemists. So such systematic study was made. And our intention was to make again that lithium as lithium oxalate and this one cobalt oxalate. So all those things are characterized here. And finally, we make for example, this is one particular case I am showing you, excited pattern of the cathode material reconstructed. So cobalt oxide formed by using the recycled precursors. So see, this was again this solid because these oxalates are carbonates. So you can take a stoichiometric amount and grind it and decompose, and you get back a battery material. And now we are into that testing those kind of the battery again. Yeah, say this is a very very rough study it was. I think we have not yet published all this, but kind of so more or less it behaves like a original material. But some things happened here. I'm just as a preliminary study or that result I'm showing this particular graph. So it was possible, and in fact already in literature we have many such reports. So the recycled the battery material formed from this precursors, recycled precursors have been well tested, and it gives a similar characteristics as that of the original lithium battery or that cathode material. Well, in addition to that, we have also made several strategies. That means the dissolved solution itself, instead of making a separate, that recovery, so we want to do it something like direct. So this kind of things are also already 1 or 2 paper came out. So directly, you can stoichiometrically adjust them and make a kind of a solder process to do things. We already made a few, some testing. So it is a very, it seems to be a good strategy instead of going that, or this oxidative method also, that because we don't have this lithium or that cobalt contamination with that there. So there we did such a kind of a cost estimation. So I think it was almost 2 years before our work, what I'm presenting now. See, the cost estimation actually, if you do, at that moment it was not so economical. But now, as I mentioned some time back, in the last 2 years, almost a 3-fold increase in the lithium cost and fourfold increase in the cobalt cost. So if you consider such things, I think it's going to be highly useful process, economical, environmentally and economically beneficial process to do this recycling process of this spent lithium-ion batteries. And in fact, see this strategy, as I already mentioned, you can use this. In fact, in my own laboratory, already we started working on various. We have brought several printed circuit boards and dismantling and using a similar strategy. So we are treating with all this kind of a mild organic acids to take out this that europium, all this kind of a rare earth minerals. So we already started, and also we do something called from the tube light and all, there is kind of inorganic phosphor coating. So that also we are doing. So from the tube light and all that, we scrub it and dissolve it and trying to take out those. And there is a mercury also that has been identified, and we are trying to separate it out. So like that. So we have been doing this kind of a systematic study on this the hydrometallurgical process and environmentally benign process to recover this kind of a valuable metal ions from this spent lithium-ion battery. So, and it is a very useful. Recently, in fact, now we have already started pilot plant scale. I'll show you those some of the pictures what we did. So funded by, actually recently last year I got a one 60 lakh funding from our state government, Vision Group on Science and Technology. So for taking up this particular work, so they specifically want us to do kind of a pellet plant scale and to treat this municipal level waste and all that. At least now we are trying to do kind of a huge battery this one. So that kind of thing. For example, we collected our for our pellet plant scale, we took a huge battery. For example, say this capacity, I just got a value something like it's about 12-volt battery, 110 ampere per hour. This weight is about 2.8 kg and the 1320 watts per hour. This is the capacity and all that. We collected few such batteries, and we have been doing all this right now. We outside we got it dismantled from in a garage and all that, but the rest in the outer core was removed, and it was a very huge battery. And then so you can see that this copper, this anode and this aluminum cathode side and all that you can see. And then see we did this kind of a dismantling. So it was very I tell something there was some fire also, but fortunately nothing happened. So it was on Sunday and we did not keep any that materials around. So fortunately nothing happened, but still some melting of this that plastic tray and all took place because this organic was not completely removed. So that was some mistake we made. Therefore, one has to be extremely careful when you have to handle this lithium-ion battery. That's what many people are afraid. Even to transport this kind of spent batteries. The other day when I was listening to a speaker from that e-Parisara, so on Bulbule, Dr. Bulbule, he was telling, see, layer by layer. So you keep one that layer of this spent batteries above which it is merged in the sand. So you put a sand and then place another, like that they transport. So because they have been collecting tons of these batteries actually. So that's how. So industrially it's okay, because in the laboratories and all one has to be very careful. Otherwise you will end up in having a lot of other problems. So therefore, is not that easy, but the process is easy, but this handling, this fire, the accidents and all those things, one has to be careful. So this is the caution I want to give for the inter-level researchers in this particular field. So therefore you see that in all these cathode materials, this anode material, it seems, copper, yes, anode material it is, and then bring it, is all collected there. I think this is the cathode. I could not place all the figures. This morning only I took it from my student, Dr. Dinesh, who is working with me. So see, these are kind of cathode material. This is typically almost about 500 gram of this cathode material you get from such a battery. So that again you see, this is all a huge separator, that Nefian this one polymer membrane. So this also one can think of using this separately. So you're not shutted, but we are doing anode processing. We are trying to anode that graphite. We are trying to use that treat it, making graphite, all about that, graphene, and also making some kind of composites and using it for some other applications like some dye degradation, etc. So we make some composites and all that. So here you see that all this kind of a huge, so it's about say 6 inch by 6 inch or that plate. So it is all folded like this. So and so we have done all such a manual treatment to process things. I think this is what is the some kind of a story about what we made things and all that. We have kind of huge some data which I'm not going to tell. So like that. So this I think I must give a more time for discussion. I think many people are interested to discuss more because this only a there is laboratory scale and now trying to do plant scale. So the other day I think I forgot to mention that Dr. Chandrachudan was mentioning me that instead of R&D it should be D&R. So that is a development should come first because we are only into the R&D. I think I really appreciate that kind of encouragement. So now we have come to that particular stage. We should go for such a pilot plant scale and doing things. I'm trying to do as with all our limitations. So still struggling. This particular interfacing somehow this academic we get busy with in the laboratory and somehow taking that to a bigger level and interacting something like that. Still I'm struggling in that direction. Well, I think that's all from my side. Talking about all those things, let me acknowledge all my students and who have collected all this data. So actually one of my first student, after completing his PhD, he did postdoc and all. Right now he's a scientist at NCL Pune, one Dr. GP Nayaka. So about this thing when I was in Kuampu University. So sorry. So now he's at NCL Pune as a scientist. And right now, one more student, one Dr. Dinesh, is working with me in this aspect. And I'm involving other few students from master course who are doing some project and all those things. So I'm trying to do such. I think I don't have any more. Yes. Yeah. If everything is fine, I think I shall now open it for that discussion.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I think main thing is about the treatment in a mild acids, mild organic acids, and selective precipitation, and this thing. This is the main process. These are very more all literature. If you see, you are more or less a similar kind because, as I said, ours was almost from India. This was the first paper in 2015. Now we have many, not from India, but many other countries, especially the Chinese and other people are doing in a big way. Yeah, so I think it's a simple chemistry, interesting to work on. Yes, sir. I think I'll just close it down. Yeah, now it yeah. Is that okay for the?
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. Now over
Yes.
to Swarup Lakshmi ma'am. Swarup. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Achha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. There are some questions in chat box.
Yeah.
Mudlia, Swarup madam, are you there?
Yeah, I'm able to hear. Please go ahead with the questions.
Achha, okay, sir. One question in the chat box
Yes,
is there.
sir. Yes, sir.
Achha. Okay, ma'am. Just you can read question from
Yes.
chat box.
Yes, sir. The first question is, sir, even though it is from top to down, breaking the device to recover the metals you need. Okay. Sir, there are few questions. High pure chemicals are being used for making it batteries.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes, madam.
high pure chemicals are used for making it batteries. Reclaimed metals are not pure, hence economically any value for these reclaimed metals. This is a question from Rajiv Raghavan, sir.
Yeah. See, I fully understand that. See, I mean, for making a battery, they use a high quality chemicals. How about the precursors that we obtain after such all this chemical treatment? You meant to say, yeah. So because though I showed so many chemicals, but for a different process, we kept on using different chemicals. But in one particular experiments, we will be using only 2 or 3 chemicals in this case, and they're all mild, acids, organic acids. So they do not impact much, and we have tried to estimate all these but ICPS and all this elemental composition. So as such, there are no impurities remaining. So I think they are reasonably good quality. I think this is the same question was asked by industrialist sometime back from Gujarat. There was one industry, something called that I forgot. Yeah, so they came to meet me, and they spent almost 2 days. They wanted to upscale, and they invited me also. So something like that. They were also of the same question, like what will be the quality of that. See, to my knowledge, it is a what is that we tried estimating any impurity present and all that with our all possible characterization. I think it's reasonably good quality. So I don't find any what is that kind of a contamination and all that. But still, I cannot say it is what is that 100% as that of the starting material. But if there are any some organic acid, something like citric acid, something if they remain, I think as we are going to decompose it during their preparation, certainly they get what is that decomposed and go away as a gaseous byproducts. Therefore, if there is any such contamination remaining, which is a decomposable only. So I think that way we are safe. So almost we did not find it. Of course, finding a carbon is again a problem. So it is not difficult to detect. So yeah, quantitatively.
Sir, one more question from Rajiv Raghavan sir only. What is the oxidizing agent used to oxidize CO3+?
Yeah. I used a very simple oxidizing agent, but that right now we are making a kind of that IPR just process it is. So that is a very simple laboratory oxidizing agent only. So I want to avoid that today. Later I can speak to him. I will discuss with him. This I just applied for a patent about that. So
okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
But it is a very simple way. We can utilize that and take out the zone. Yeah.
Sir, there is one more question from Supriya Nair. She says that, can you please tell through which method maximum recovery of lithium was obtained?
In all these methods, say a maximum, I think is in both the methods we got almost 100% lithium, whatever is there in the cathode material. So there was nothing remained, because I mainly depend on only that flame photometry to estimate, because that is the best method compared to even AS is a difficult task. So this flame photometry, so we try to estimate whatever say maximum, we put it in the acid also, and to recheck if there is any remaining lithium and all that. So we did not find most of the lithium in either case. So whether it's oxidative or that reductive method, in both cases we get. But still I prefer oxidative method is because cobalt contamination will not come there, even to the trace level. Trace level contamination is also not there. Oxidative method seems to be best.
Sir, one more question from Dr. Preeti Mangrulkar. She says, has the cost also been estimated for the recovery of the metals?
Yes. Cost, that's what, madam, I showed on table. I think those values I can go back to that. But right now, almost 2 years before that kind of work was made, this one estimation, because as we published in that journal, they were wanted, give a cost estimation of all that. So, so from our own laboratory, this thing, that process, the manpower, the electricity, and the chemicals that we used, everything, if we taken into account, so it was not economical 2 years before. Okay, not economical means just it was enough. So it is because right now in India we get a lithium carbonate and all at say about some SD-fine and that kind of a quality. So about to say, I think it's about 150 rupees or so, 100 grams something. So it is that range. Now I think it is all, as I said, it's almost 3 times, 4 times. Yeah, that it is increased. Yeah.
Sir, a little scaling of the process will it make feasible?
Okay.
Hello, I am
Yes, sir.
Dr. Chandrachudan here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Manjanna, see, I would like to know how much quantity of lithium you could recover in your laboratory so far?
Sir, in all those publication part, we got maximum about some 2 grams only. Right now, I am handling 100 grams.
Yeah. So in that process, what would be the approximate waste generated in this process? And when you say that hydrometallurgy is
correct. See, this are actually waste. We don't say this is the waste actually, because whatever that say mild organic acids, because that can be again recycled. Because once you precipitate it, again those mild organic acids are available for reusing it. But anyway, this laboratory level we don't reuse, but in the industrial scale, it is possible to reuse that. Okay.
As a R&D coordinator.
Yes,
so what I am now looking is when a laboratory scale work is done, and then to really implement it in practice, we'll have to go to pilot scale and then industrial scale.
Yes, sir.
Then,
Yes, sir.
then even the structural components which are accrued in the process, that also becomes apart from the chemicals used, that will be a big bulk of waste. So,
yes,
but unless we considered in totality as a package, it will all reflect not correctly in the cost estimate, is it not? That is what
Yes, sir, I fully agree. But the mild acids, if you look at it, say citric acid, ascorbic acid, citric acid, ascorbic acid, this kind of the mild organic acids, they are environmentally benign. Even say for example, after some quick cycle, if you dispose, they will it is a kind of soil nutrients only. They will not be ascorbic acid is vitamin C.
Yeah, because there are some other bulk handlers who would like to do the same urban mining. They prefer to use the pyrometallurgy route. So what is the economic and other environmental impact?
Yes, that should be
advantages you find in hydrometallurgy route.
Certainly.
Yes.
But compared to this, the need of this, lithium battery, sometimes we have to. It's very much required. Lithium we don't have in India.
No, that is true. But then, and the next question is, if the same route can be used, so you can use the same for recovering from the ores as well.
Ores, I have not tried actually, but may be difficult because this mineral dissolution with these acids may be difficult. Because that will have many other say what the phases. I have not tried it.
I think it's a good work. I think a lot of things are to be further worked out. It's a very, very good attempt. Thank you for a very nice talk.
Thank you so much. And I think something you are mentioning that later maybe we can discuss or phone some other time. We shall have. I will be very happy to interact with him and for further thing.
Well, I have just a little clarification.
Yes, sir.
Whether you have done only lithium-ion batteries, spent lithium-ion batteries, or you are proceeding to e-waste, that is rare earths, etc., extraction of all that.
Sir, actually, because e-waste only printed circuit board right now, because those we are just to dissolve some ferrites and other things using the same this thing. Mineral acids and all that. So, but full dismantling and I am having some other difficulty, this elemental analysis and all those things quantitatively, quantity estimation. But we brought even that LED circuit there, this rails are there. So we just started such work. But this tube light thing that there is a pass par that we have done, but not published yet. So we are into all this work. because that is inorganic phosphor. There we have this kind of synthesizers and all. We have europium, and mainly this mercury was separated.
Rare earths and even
yes, sir.
noble metals also. Some of the noble metals also we can get.
Correct. Yeah.
And NML has done some work on this.
Yeah, e-waste first the segregation of the components is very important. Otherwise, if you keep just a direct dissolution, all those this lead, copper, aluminum, all those things will enter the solution, and it becomes very difficult separating. Therefore, in the beginning itself, we should make a maximum separation, then treat. So that's how what we are struggling now. I just did only some kind of a ferrite treatment and those kind of and some magnetic ferrites and all, so that dissolution and some recovery we have made.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thanks for a nice talk.
Yes.
Sir, can we move? Any more questions?
No questions in chat box, madam. You can move.
Okay. So thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a very informative presentation, and we have been seeing in the chat box also, everybody is full of praise for your exceptional work. I hope all of us would be benefited. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Saran to read out the citation of Certificate of Excellence.
A feedback link is there. Please give your feedbacks also.
Yeah. First of all, thanks a lot, Dr. Manjanna, for the wonderful, in-depth, and highly informative and educative talk. Now let us, as a token, we, on behalf of ISAS, Indian Society of Electrical Scientists, we offer
Thank you.
Certificate of Excellence. Now I will just read out the Certificate of Excellence. So it says, Indian Society of Electrical Scientists, ISAS, Nagpur chapter, ISAS.in, Kerala chapter, and ISAS headquarters, with Chemistry Department, Sri Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management, Nagpur, in recognition of the outstanding result, happy to confer the Certificate of Excellence delivered and insight on recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium battery on March 6, 2021, during which he shared his immense insight, great expertise, and enriched knowledge in the subject, which is highly relevant to recovery of valuable metals, pollution control, and management strategies of lithium-ion batteries. The talk in this national webinar synergized immensely with the objective of ISAS in promoting excellence and relevance. Thanks, Dr. Manjan.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm very happy to accept. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Saran, sir. Now I would request Dr. A.R. Fani to virtually hand over the Certificate of Excellence to Dr. Manjana.
I know Professor Manjana very well, so I can hand over anytime.
Yes.
I'm planning to come to Belgaum maybe in the first week of April. So
yes, sir. Most welcome. Please do call me, so we shall meet.
I will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Fani, sir.
Yes.
Meanwhile, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback link.
Yes.
The most important segment in the webinar. Now I invite Dr. Suraj Butolia, Department of Chemistry, Sri Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management, to propose the vote of thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Sarvakrushi madam. Now, good evening, everyone. On behalf of ISAS Nagpur chapter, Kerala chapter, and headquarters, along with Chemistry Department, RCIM Nagpur, I would like to thank today's chief guest, Dr. A.R. Fani, Managing Director, Innovative Nano and Microtechnology, Bangalore, for accepting the invitation and addressing the August gathering by his valuable remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also thank Dr. Jayappa Manjana, resource person of today's webinar, for enlightening us with his vast knowledge on recovery of valuable metals from spent lithium battery. I sure that everyone get benefited with his experience in this field. Thank you, sir. Let me also thank National President of ISAS, Dr. Chandrachudan, and Vice President Dr. Raghav Saran for initiating the webinar series and identifying the eminent speaker. Organizing such an event, there is a lot goes in the background about communicating with people and assigning the different tasks to suitable person. So I thank Dr. Avinash Bharti, Chairman ISAS Nagpur Chapter, for taking lead and successful completion of this event. I also thank Dr. KKA Rashid for joining hands with ISAS Nagpur Chapter and Headquarter for this webinar. I also thank Dr. Indrayani Das Sharma and Dr. PV Joseph for nice introduction of today's chief guest, Dr. A.R. Fani, and resource person, Dr. Jayappa Manjana. I thank Dr. Sarup Lakshmi Mudliar for smooth conduction of the webinar. I also thank Dr. Chandrasekhar, Secretary ISAS Nagpur Chapter, for preparing certificates for all participants. In this pandemic situation, the need of technical support is very high. So I thank whole team of chemistry department, Sri Ramdev Baba College of Engineering, Nagpur, for providing technical support. I thank all the audience for ensuring the success of this event and hope to see you all in the upcoming events of ISAS Headquarters and ISAS Nagpur Chapter. So thank you once again all. Good night.
Thank you, one and all. Like all good things come to an end. So I, Swarup Lakshmi, am signing off. To meet you all once again in another webinar hosted by ISAS Nagpur Chapter as well as Kerala Chapter.
Thank you, Dr. Fani. Thank you, Dr. Manjana, for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Manjana and Fani sir. And thank you all from Nagpur Chapter.
And it was a nice meeting with Dr.
Thank you.
Manjana.
Okay. Thank you.
On behalf of ISAS, I invite all of you to interact with ISAS. Continue the interaction.
Let us take one photograph. Just the screenshot I am taking. For that, I am requesting all of you to just turn on your camera.
We can put on this one. What is that?
You can turn on your camera so that I can take one screenshot.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you very much.
Dr. Rajeev, thank you very much. Probably your name was Neil or something.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Rashid.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Babu, good night.
Good night, Jamna.
So thank you,
Good
Doctor.
night, sir. Good night.
Dr. Sharan, good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Chanchuran sir,
Dr.
good night.
Sharan.
Rashid sir,
Hello.
good night.
Good
Madam
night.
Vijay.